Right now, open your refrigerator. There's maybe a soda, a yogurt, or maybe leftover pizza, maybe a mango that was grown on a different continent and shipped halfway around the world just so you could eat it on a random Tuesday. None of this existed for your ancestors. Not the soda, not the yogurt, not the imported fruit, not even the idea of a meal sitting ready and waiting whenever you felt hungry. So here's a question almost nobody asks. What did our ancestors actually eat? Not the polite version. Not the textbook version with a clean illustration of a caveman holding a spear. The real one. And the real answer would genuinely disturb most people sitting comfortably in front of their fridge right now. Scientists found evidence buried in caves and ancient riverbeds that completely rewrote what we thought we knew about the early human diet. To understand it, we have to go back about 3 million years. Let's start with something uncomfortable. Our earliest ancestors weren't hunters. They were scavengers. Picture the African savanna. A lion brings down a large animal and eats the best parts first, the soft organs, the prime muscle. When the lion finishes, hyenas move in next, tearing through skin, ribs, and the smaller, more accessible bones. But by the time anything is left, it's scraps. And that's exactly when early humans showed up. Last in line. After the lions, after the hyenas, standing over whatever remained of a carcass that two more dangerous, more capable predators had already picked apart. But here's the detail that changes everything. Even hyenas, with jaws strong enough to crack through bone, usually couldn't break open the thick leg bones of large animals. Those bones got left behind, abandoned, considered worthless by every predator that had already taken its turn. Early humans picked those bones up. Using simple sharpened stones, tools archaeologists now call Oldowan tools, they smashed those thick leg bones open. And inside was something extraordinary. Bone marrow. Soft, dense, packed with fat, one of the richest calorie sources available anywhere on that landscape. They ate it raw, straight out of the bone, using their fingers. While lions and hyenas were built to dominate a carcass through speed and strength, early humans had something neither predator had. Hands precise enough to use a tool, and a tool precise enough to access food that was, quite literally, locked inside bone. And it didn't stop at marrow. Early humans also cracked open skulls to get at the brain inside, another source loaded with fat, another nutritional jackpot hidden in plain sight. This early obsession with fat-rich food may explain something about your own cravings today. That instinct pulling you toward rich, fatty food isn't a modern weakness. An ancient survival strategy still running in the background of your brain, and alongside marrow and brains, insects were simply dinner. Termites, beetles, grubs, larvae. Not emergency food eaten only when nothing else was available. Just food. Normal, everyday food. The same way you'd consider a sandwich normal. This pattern, scavenging scraps, smashing bones, eating insects, continued for well over 1 million years. For most of that time, food was raw, difficult, and often disgusting by modern standards. Then fire entered the picture. The oldest solid evidence we have of humans controlling fire comes from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, dating back roughly 1 million years. Deep inside that cave, researchers found ash and burned bone in a location far enough from the entrance that it couldn't have been a wildfire that simply wandered in. Someone brought fire into that cave on purpose, and someone kept it burning. Once humans controlled fire, cooking followed. Meat could be roasted instead of torn apart raw. Tough roots, previously almost impossible to digest, became soft enough to eat. Marrow bones could be heated, making the fat inside even easier to extract. And cooking didn't just make food taste different. It fundamentally changed what food could do once it was inside your body. Here's why that matters so much. Cooking works like a head start on digestion. Heat breaks down tough proteins and starches before you ever take a bite, meaning your body has to do far less work to extract the energy hidden inside. Raw food, by comparison, is expensive. Your gut has to grind through fiber, break down raw starches, and fight through tough proteins, burning a huge amount of energy in the process just to access the energy contained in the meal itself. Cooked food skips most of that struggle. You absorb more calories more efficiently from the exact same amount of food. And this is where the story stops being just about dinner and starts being about who you are. Harvard anthropologist Richard Wrangham has spent decades studying this exact shift, and he argues that cooking didn't just make life more convenient. It made the human brain possible. Wrangham proposes that the dramatic jump in human brain size happened specifically because of cooking with fire, a shift he ties to Homo erectus roughly 1.8 million years ago. The logic is almost brutally simple. The brain is the single most expensive organ in your entire body, demanding more energy per gram than any other tissue you have. Growing a bigger brain isn't free. Something else has to pay for it. Cooking was the payment plan, because cooked food requires so much less time and energy to chew and digest. Less of the body's total energy budget had to go toward foraging and processing food, which meant that energy could be redirected somewhere else, toward a brain that was rapidly becoming larger, hungrier, and more capable. Wrangham describes it as a direct trade, less spent digesting, more available to fuel cognitive growth, and over enough generations, that trade reshaped the entire species. The fossil record backs this up in a way that's hard to dismiss. Before fire entered the picture, early homins had large premolars built for grinding tough seeds and fibrous plants. Once cooked food entered the diet, those molars gradually shrank, signaling a shift away from tough raw plants towards softer cooked meat and vegetables. That same shift eventually produced a smaller jaw, with smaller, more specialized teeth, the same basic dental layout you're using right now. And because cooked food was so much easier to break down, the digestive system itself could afford to shrink, freeing up even more energy for the brain to consume. The hardest physical proof didn't show up until much later. At a site called Gesher Beno Yaakov in Israel, researchers examined fish teeth from giant carp, some growing up to 2 meters long, that once lived in a nearby lake. By studying how heat had altered the structure of those teeth, scientists determined the fish had been exposed to controlled, moderate heat, evidence of deliberate cooking dating back roughly 780,000 years. It pushed the confirmed record of human cooking back by hundreds of thousands of years beyond what had previously been documented. So somewhere between 1 million years ago and 780,000 years ago, in caves and along ancient lake shores, something shifted permanently. Eating stopped being a simple act of survival and became something closer to a strategy. Fire wasn't just warmth and protection from predators anymore. It was a tool for unlocking calories that raw food had been hiding the entire time. Not every researcher agrees on exactly when this began. Some scientists think cooking is a much more recent development, possibly no older than 500,000 years, while others, following Wrangham, push the timeline back nearly 2 million years based purely on anatomical evidence. The debate is still active, still unresolved, still being argued in academic journals today. But what almost nobody disputes is the outcome. Experiments measuring the actual energy humans extract from cooked versus raw food confirm what the fossils suggested. Cooking measurably increases the calories your body absorbs from the exact same meal. Think about what that actually means for your life right now. Every meal you eat today, heated, seasoned, softened by a stove or a fire you didn't have to build from scratch, the direct descendant of a discovery your ancestors stumbled into beside a fire they were terrified to lose. They weren't trying to invent the future of human intelligence. They were trying to eat a tough root or a stringy piece of meat or the marrow from a bone the hyenas had already chewed on. And somewhere in that struggle, without knowing it, without any concept of evolution or brain chemistry or calories, they triggered one of the most important transformations our species has ever gone through. You didn't get your brain because you're special. You got it because somewhere, hundreds of thousands of years ago, someone figured out that fire could do part of your digesting for you. Every time you heat up a meal tonight, you're repeating an act that, quite literally, built the mind you're using to read this sentence.